Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome once again to the D.C.B channel. My name is Zurishaddai. I'm one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, BINAH, located at 382 Hamilton Avenue in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. We welcome you once again, and we thank you for joining us, for being with us, and for just choosing us as a place to listen to, and also following us and liking us. So before we start, don't forget to like this video. If you haven't done it yet, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share the video to all your different platforms so that the information could get out there and everybody will know exactly what is it, the messages that we're bringing. So we appreciate you doing that for us. Also, like I told y'all last week, we're not going over any of the Torah portions of the Haftorot yet, because we're waiting for the beginning when we restart the Torah from Bereshit again, to go through the Haftorot portions that are set aside for the different weekly Sidra portions that are set aside for the weekly Sidra. So once again, giving glory to the Most High King of the universe, Yehudah, creator of all things and everything, and unto him and him alone do we give glory. I would like to thank the Most High God for the life of the teacher, who's about ready to come on and bring some psalms. He hasn't told me which psalms yet. He's going to move around. So without any further ado, I will pass the mic over to Nasik Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. Shalom, Nasik.
Shalom. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to give praise to the Supreme Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Due respect to the platform of Chief Prince Ariel, the host Chief Uziel, the Prince Chief, brother and sister, the Rabbanim, Horny, all those on the sun, my boys, I greet you. Shalom Aleichem and early Shabbat Shalom. I'll be doing the 30th Psalm today. It's basically close to 8 weeks between now and the restarting of Bereshit and the Haftorot for that particular time. So, but we have some interesting things that's coming up within that time, because right now we coming towards the end of the 5th month, and we closely approaching the 6th month, and I'm under preparation. And they say we call that preparation, just like the preparation for the 6th day for the Shabbat. The 6th year, you're pretty much prepared already for the sabbatical year, and then 7 times 7, that sabbatical year plus the Yovel. So we always in a constant mode of not only reset, but also preparing to reset, and which is interesting. But just as we get ready to lead this particular month of Av, I just like also I neglected to bring out that one of the most interesting things about Av, besides the temple itself being destroyed twice on the same day, just centuries apart, that in the month of Av, the Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of Av, we have the only person in the whole scripture whom death is recorded, on the exact date. And that's the first high priest, Aharon. Everybody else we know, they died. We might know what age they died, but we never know what day they died. So the first high priest had died during the month of Av, and it should be a thing of just reflection and stuff like that, and a concern. And not only we lost the first high priest at the beginning of the month, then 9 days later, concluding on the 10th day of that month, you lost the Beit HaMikdash, centuries later. And both of those we cannot replace. We cannot replace Aharon, and we cannot replace the Beit HaMikdash. But what's interesting, I like to bring out also, as we went through at Kev last week, what the Shabbat just passed, is that one of the things is that we got to look at how we learn, and how, and the AKF itself can translate it as if, but it really means to heal. So when we look at how we learn, we normally learn through three major faculties: sight, hearing, and then actually performance. You got to use your body to perform, to move. And usually with sight, we get our most education by seeing things. When seeing, get most of your understanding through sight. To hear, it takes a lot more skill to decipher what you hear, to understand what was heard, what was spoken, or what was the sound, and interpret it a lot more. And what is even harder is get your body to perform those things, and one of the things we're talking about is the commandments of the Creator. But why I bring up those particular points in that cave, because sometimes when that cave is the heels, the most overlooked part of the body. People talk about their feet, they talk about their legs, they talk about their knees, they talk about their arms, they talk about, even the stomach, their head, but the eyes, the ears, but they rarely ever hear people talk about the heel, and one interpretation is that sometimes we could see the importance of doing great commandments, but we can't see the importance of doing the minute commandments, because everybody understand thou shalt not steal, but everybody don't understand why we shouldn't wear a garment mingled with woolen and linen. So one is, you can understand, say, hey, that ain't no good. A thief don't like a thief. But then when you talk about a garment and stuff like that, say, well, that same kind of minor. Right? And those are things about Ekev, and Moshe also demonstrated in there, in the last Sidra, that it took him, Moshe got his encounter and understanding when the Creator on three levels. First he saw the bush. He said, look, I must turn around and see this great sight. Next thing you know, he heard a voice. And then last but not least, he had to do some footing. He had to do some traveling. And that was his stages of developing and working with the Creator, the All Highest. And as much as that, Moses himself being one of our great teachers, but now we got to look at this other great teacher, Dawi Hamelech. And we're going to the 30th Psalm of Dawi Hamelech. We know that Moses, when he came down the third time from the mount with the tablets of stone, and we know also, and we find out from last week's Sidra, when we look at and the explanation from the 9th chapter of Deuteronomy, and then we get into the beginning of the 10th chapter, we find out that he actually ascended 3 times. The first time he got all that information and was being taught. Second time, he's on a plea mission for 40 days and 40 nights, like unto the first. And then when you get to the 10th chapter of last week's Sidra, which is Ekev, you find out that it said, and then he was told to go back down and bring another set, carve out another set like unto the first and bring them back up. So that's how you calculate the 3 times that he actually went up on the mountain. It's only that last time that you find out his face actually shown as a testimony. So while he's up there doing that and bringing back those tablets, and we was pretty much wondering what the tablets were for, a space for the Creator. Now, when we get into the 30th Psalm, and it says, in the beginning of the Psalm says, a song at the dedication of the house of Dawi. All right. So now that's when you find the word Hanukkah in the Hebrew, Mizmor Shir. And it's a song that's sung in ancient times, according to historical tradition. And it was accompanied with music. But we know for sure Dawi never built the house. But we read, and I'm not going to go into it today, just to be a little bit brief, that if you go into the First Chronicles, around the 29th chapter of Chronicles, because we know that David wanted to build a house, but the Creator prevented him from building it. But in the 29th chapter, and when you read about David providing everything for the house and praying for the people, in the beginning of the 29th chapter of First Chronicles. And I asked everybody to look over that. And what we learn from that is sometimes if you can't participate fully, because of certain things in your past, that don't mean you don't participate at all. If you have certain handicaps that don't allow you to serve this Creator, and David wanted to serve the Creator, then you do what you can, while you can, and as much as you can. So I'm gonna start from the 30th chapter, the first verse of dedication. And that means not only that he had the plans that Solomon used, he also had the material that Solomon had provided for the building of the temple itself. All right, we can pick it up from
We're
there.
in the book of Psalms chapter 30, starting from verse 1. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
And it reads on this wise. A psalm, a song at the dedication of the house of David. I will extol thee, O Yehovah, for thou hast raised me up and hast not suffered mine enemies to rejoice over me.
Okay,
O Yehovah, my...
That's what I'm make it clear. Because sometimes when we read the song, we think it's David dedicating his house.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I just want to make that first line clear. A song at the dedication of the house. And then of means that's who's bringing this dedication, of it, and for the what house? The house to come behind him, not the house that he actually lived in, because he wanted to build a house for the Creator. I just want to bring that out because some people would just read that without the semicolon there and think, oh, he's talking about his own house. He's not talking about the house that he wanted to build, but he was prohibited to build himself. All right. And it says, and it goes on to say, and not suffer my enemies to rejoice over me. All right, now go ahead. Let's pick it up from the next
Verse 3.
third.
One second here. Verse 3, it reads, O Yehovah my God, I cried unto thee, and thou didst heal me. O Yehovah, thou broughtest up my soul from the netherworld. Thou didst keep me alive, that I shall not go down to the pit.
Hold right there. I want to speak on that. First thing you got to ask, if it's a dedication for the house that's going to be built later on, why is he talking about his health? What do his health, his sickness, his ailment, but yet he recognized the Creator healed them, and he was worried about people saying, if you're so much of a godly man, if you're so much of the beloved of the Lord, then why are you sick? And you wanted to do so much for God, and why are you in this physical condition now? And David not only wanted to dedicate the house, but sometimes, it's a lot of very ways you could go with that. You could even think on it in this sense, which I choose to think on it, but not necessarily being that's the actual interpretation, is that sometimes when you yearn to do something so much for the Creator, it should yearn for so much that it even make you ill and weak that you can't perform what you want to perform. When you want to do the commandments, when you want to serve God to your utmost, and you chain down and inhibited from doing that, you want to pray X amount of times a day, and you're inhibited to pray that many times a day, but you really want to pray often to the Creator. David had gotten an ailment. We know later on in his life he had a real physical ailment, and this is and this time also, if we go by chronological chronological order, and we go by the periods of events, we know that he had brought the ark back, and he was feeling so enthused after he brought the ark back, after it had been taken away, and then he had it stashed someplace else after it already tried to bring it back one time and it wasn't successful. We know automatically that once he did that, he was really, really lifted up spiritually to serve this God. As we get close to that particular time, we got to reflect on our own selves, reflect on our own frailties. So now Dawi himself letting them know that, look, I got ill, I got sick, but you didn't let my enemies use that to their advantage to say, how good could it be to exploit my integrity? All right. So we continue. Yes.
Psalms chapter 30. Sing praise unto Yahweh, O ye his holy, his weeping may tarry for the night, but joy cometh in the morning.
Okay, so right then and there, even in your worst conditions, you got to be able to thank God. It's like that individual Job, you know what I mean? That even though he went through a whole lot of drama in his life, went through a whole lot of pain and suffering, he still would not reject the Creator. And David said, sing praise unto the Lord, O ye his godly ones, and give thanks unto his holy name, for his anger is but for a moment. That means even if you say you're a person that love God, you can mess up and anger God. And the thing is that you got to be able to accept what God has to give you according to your deeds, and get that as a learning curve to try to step up. So, and he said, whatever you go through, and it says it's only but a moment, and his favors for a lifetime. When God do something for you and give you a blessing, it's a blessing that will never be reversed. A curse, a punishment, he may change or shorten, but a blessing that he gives any individual is perpetual. Continue.
Verse 7.
Yes.
And it reads, give me 1 second here. It reads, now I said, in my security, I shall never be moved.
Okay.
Thou hast established, O Yahweh, in thy favor my mountain as a stronghold. Thou didst hide thy face, I was affrighted.
Okay. Thou didst hide thy face, I was affrighted. Anytime the Creator leaves you because you had left his standards, left his laws, left serving him, David, who's a warrior, and was not afraid to go up against Goliath, became fearful that God is not on his side. That's the way we're supposed to feel as we approach this particular time. We try to employ the Creator on our side. We try to, even though he spanked us, and you know how it is when some of us when it's coming up, and your mother say, or your parents will say that you got to be in this such time. Say in the summertime, you might have to be in 8 o'clock. The sun ain't going down to 9, but they want you back in the house at 8 o'clock. So, because you got a different shift of people coming out towards the evening. And you say, I'm gonna hang out there long. Now, you know the consequences. 1, you might not go back outside. 2, you might get the strap coming in. And 3, you say, you try to avoid it.
Continue.
All right. So if you could avoid it if you can, but the best thing is take it, learn from it, and try to be more prudent in the future. That's one of the things. But it's hard to say take correction, because correction ain't never easy. Change is not easy. When you want to make a change in your life, it's uncomfortable because you done built up a certain routine. And a correction, if they're giving you, a spanking or something like that, and a punishment for what you do, and not meant to be comfortable, but it's supposed to be correcting you. So, for anybody that might have had a finger, if you played maybe basketball or some other sports, and your finger jump off the joint, or your shoulders jump out, and the guy said, "Okay, nothing broke, but I got to put it right back." So it didn't hurt that bad when it went out, but now when they get ready to put it back, you focus on, man, my correction gonna hurt me. But yes, it's crooked. If your shoulder came out, it might have hurt a little bit, but it ain't gonna hurt as bad as when the person decide to put it back right. And that's what athletes know that. You say, man, when it happened, I didn't feel that bad, but when they try to straighten it out, man. So, and this is part of the correction that comes from the Creator. And Yahweh letting you know right then and there, that, when you said earlier, weeping may tarry for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. That means right in there, in the strongest part of the day, you got something to look forward to. And you're talking about next verse of understand. Now I said in my security, I shall never be moved, and thou hast established, O Lord, in thy favor, my mountain as a stronghold. Thou didst hide thy face, I was frightened. So nobody want the Creator to disappear on them. That's why sometimes in the book it say, seek out God while he yet may be found. Sometimes we don't want to look for him. We don't try to seek him. We don't try to employ him in our service. Most times, I said in one of my lectures a while back that, and even in the last sidra that passed by, that when you eat and be satisfied, then you be giving thanks to the Creator. But what happens if you eat and you're not satisfied? And one of the things is when we talk about how can we not be satisfied when you're eating, that's still the case of manna, and that's still the thing of regular bread. Regular bread, you see it, and you know what it's supposed to taste like when you see somebody bake some regular bread. But and when you eat it, you're gonna have some kind of satisfaction because you're expecting it to taste like bread. But manna, you go ahead on, you mold it, you pound it, you bake it, or you fry it, and it tastes whatever you think you want. So now you're not really satisfied because you can see it's not what I want, even though it tastes like I want. Case in point, those that might be eating a veggie burger and they're used to eating a beef burger. Or, so you say the veggie burger might taste somewhat okay, but they might not be satisfied with the veggie burger if you really wanted a beef burger. With the manna, the thing about the manna, and it teaches us a lesson as opposed to the bread, because we talk up against the manna that was given by the Creator to us to feed us in the wilderness for those 40 years. When we look at the manna, it comes from heaven. And when it comes from heaven, normally if we say a blessing for bread, they had a blessing for bread, bless out thou, O Lord of God, King of Earth, who brought forth bread from the earth. Now we know we baked it and molded it into that. But when it comes from manna, bless out thou, O Lord God, King of the universe, who's given us bread from heaven. And since it's coming from heaven, it takes a while to appreciate something that don't look like you expect. But when it's something that you expect to look like that, you tend to appreciate it. So hence the thing is that when you eat and satisfied, their main diet through the 40 years was that manna. Then you thank God because you know your bread and your food was coming from him. Even though the ground produces stuff, and without the Creator blessing, it won't produce. But he provided our food, and the problem is we had to go out and look for it every single day. So manna wasn't something that we couldn't store up for a couple of weeks. The best we could do is get a day out of it. And that's only on the 6th day we had that blessing. All right, so let's continue.
Verse 9.
Right.
Unto thee, O Yah, that I call, and unto thee, Yah, I make supplication. What profit is there in my blood when I go down to the pit? Shall the dust praise thee? Shall it declare thy truth?
All right. Now, David praying for his reform. You know what I mean? While he's ill. Remember this prayer, it's supposed to be a dedication of the house, but yet it's more about David's recovery. And say, well, how could they say a dedication of the house? And that's the way David himself wrote this song. And David speaking about himself, but how do he identify with the house that he could not build? Because When we had the house, the place that God named West and dwelled there, we had hope. We had, and one time when the ark came out of the camp, we thought that was going to be it. But it's predicated on our worthiness. So when you look at the house that established, that building that we could offer your sacrifice, a place where you could turn to, even to this very day, we faced a house that was dedicated to the Most High God. We don't face the east. It depends on where we at on the globe. We face that place that was dedicated to the for God named to dwell and rest there, and out of all the places He chose. So if you north of it, you're gonna look south. If you south of it, you're gonna turn north. If you east of it, you're gonna turn west, and if you west of it, you're gonna turn east. You know, and you're gonna have the other points: north, east, south, east. You know what I mean? Northwest, southwest. So when we stand up, why do we take a conscious effort to say, "Where's the house?" We know we can't see it from where we at most of the times. We know our eyesight is not there, but we want to direct our thoughts to where our salvation comes from. So now we bring this to the close, and he said, "Look here, why he says, shall the dust praise thee? Shall declare thy truth?" In other words, if I go, not that you out of business, like one prophet tried to say, I alone and left of the prophets, and Jezebel killed all the prophets of God. What happens is that the dust, which is man, can't perform the commandments. We ourselves, when we try to develop and perform the commandments, we give him praise to the Creator. When I say I observe Shabbat, when I say I eat a certain way, when I say I don't steal, I don't commit adultery, I don't do this and I don't do that, and that's according to the laws, statutes, and judgments of the Creator. You know, I don't use deception, the fraud on neighbor. I'm not using a covetousness, coveting. Then we bring honor to the Creator by doing those laws. And David said, if I die, I haven't done enough yet to secure your praise. Not just strictly on my life, but I don't think, I know I didn't do enough to give you praise. Because if the mouth, all the sand, the mouth could hold, all the waters in the earth, if you had the words of all the waters of the earth or the sands of the sea, that wouldn't be enough to give the Creator praise. So we're going to finish this out.
Verse
11.
10.
11.
No,
Go
verse 11. Slicker. Verse 11 reads, Hear, O Yahweh, hear, O Yah, and be gracious unto me. Yah, be thou my helper.
Uh-huh.
Thou didst turn for me my mourning into dancing. Thou didst loose my sackcloth and gird me with gladness, so that my glory may sing praise to thee and not be silent. O Yah, my God, I will give thanks unto thee forever. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. One of the great things about this particular psalm is and most of the psalms, which we get into a few because like I said, there's only a few weeks, so I'm gonna try to touch on different psalms, that comes about, during this particular season. But one of the things is about the excitement of being able to praise God, the excitement of doing God's will. Moses himself, he's supposed to have to see the land from up on top of a mountain. And that's supposed to suffice him. And it said he's seen the whole land of Israel, the whole boundaries, the north, the south, the east, the west, the whole land of Israel that God had in store for us. And yet he supposed to stay on that side, which became annexed to the to the nation of Israel. All right, because the side that God, Reuben, and part of Manasseh stayed on, that became territories of Israel, but that was not the land that was in the plan. So how would Moses be satisfied just looking at a place that he wanted to go at? Because he could see the potential of the land, the potential of doing God's law in that land, how great a man could be elevated. He taught a lot of laws in theory. Whereas when he couldn't apply certain laws, though he was able to teach it, though he was able to understand it, he could not apply it. When we go through the book of Deuteronomy, what we mostly going through is his long speech. Moses' long speech. And what his long speech is, normally it says, and thus spoke the Lord God, the Lord spoke to Moses saying, speak unto the children of Israel. And Deuteronomy is not the Lord speaking to Moses to speak to the children of Israel. He's speaking through Moses, and Moses teaching the children of Israel. That's why in the use of melamed, which means to cause them not just to study, but to learn. And that's the difference. So one of the greatness about him being spoken to mouth, that anything God tell you, and he made the body, we won't forget not one iota of his instruction. You don't have to do a vision. You don't have to do a dream. He spoke to you, and he spoke with him for 40 days and 40 nights, non-stop. And you notice when Moses said, when he first encountered God in the first 40 days, he said he fell upon his face, right in the presence of God. And so that evidently he stayed in that prone position for 40 days and 40 nights. So with that, I hope you got something out of what I said, and any mistakes been my own. And thank the people for this time and opportunity. And everybody, have a good coming Shabbat, and continue a couple more Psalms, different areas as we go on. And thank the platform of D.C.B.
Hallelujah. Prince, I got a question for you before you go.
Okay.
In the portion coming up, it speaks about the Levites, and it speaks about there will always be the poor in the midst of you. And it also speaks about how we should, if we were to follow certain rules and regulations, that basically the poor will be maintained. My question to you is this: since the Levites didn't inherit in the land, right? Their inheritance or their portion was the most high, right? When there was time for them to go down to 3 times in the year, when it says that all men shall appear not empty, knowing that the Levites didn't have any inheritance, and they basically stayed within the tribes of Israel, depending on the tithes and the things that people gave. Do you think that it was like a thing where if a Levite stayed with you up north, that it was your responsibility to bring him, and also, let's say like for Pesach or anything like that, or for offering or anything like that, was it our responsibility to give something to them in order for them to offer up, or was that just from the tithe?
All right. That's a very good question, and you're going to have quite a few viewpoints on it, if I understand your question clearly. All right. Now, the Levites themselves, we got a good example of a Levite, Elkanah, Shemuel's father. He didn't go 3 times in a year, he went up yearly. All right. We know in the law, if a Levite came in any other borders, and then it was, wherever, and that's when they had the Mishkan before the tabernacle was set up. All right. And if he happened to show up, it depends on his status, he's entitled to certain things. All right. Because they had Levitical cities in all 12 areas, and they had certain jobs and they're collecting certain things there. But they supposed to set aside themselves. And if they don't make it directly to Jerusalem, then they got to make sure the stuff make it directly to Jerusalem or wherever the place was. We had Gilgal for a while, we had Shiloh for a while, we had Nob for a while, before we got to Jerusalem. So it was to make sure. But though the law says all males, it's talking about the other people, the other people outside, the other tribes, and that law, everybody didn't do that on a regular. So I mean, it's a law that everybody's supposed to go, but it's also understood everybody didn't go, and we got an example of that using one of the most prominent guys during the time of Judges, his father, Shemuel's father. So and that's one of the bad things about it, because when we dub, ad lib, or short change, then the more we shorten something up, the more we distort it. And if you shorten something up, you're not completing it. So if you need a 12 foot long board, and you say, well, I'm gonna do 11 inches this time, you know what I mean? And then fill in and patch it up with some other stuff. You need the 12 inches in order for it to fit properly. Same thing with the Torah. So the Levites themselves didn't go every year, and we know from the time of Judges, and we could check on Judges from certain time of months, because certain months is mentioned during the time of Judges. He said, "Well, this Levite doing over here?" When it should be down someplace else, and it ain't no trip overnight. All right.
Another question. There's often discussion that some Israelites, not all Israelites, they argument about the Shabbat day and whether or not we're supposed to come out and be in places like congregations or whatever. They say that where it says you shall have a holy gathering or a holy convocation or Mikra Kodesh, right? Mm-hmm. They say that that is not talking about us coming out together and having a get together, but they say that is literally a holy calling, meaning that the day is called, we understand what the day is, and it's a day of rest. It never was commanded for us to gather together as you know members and have these congregations like we have it. And I believe they get that in a part of Exodus where the people went out there when after the Most High God told them that there wouldn't be any manna on the seventh day. He told them gather twice the amount on the sixth day because there wouldn't be any on the seventh day. And the people still went out there, and the Most High God told them, don't come out of your houses on the Sabbath day. And they used that as the catalyst to say that we're not supposed to come out of our houses on the Sabbath day. What's your take on that?
Well, I agree with what you said already, and that's the spot they try to use, which just to use what they said in the New Testament, that's error, not knowing the scriptures. I throw that one in because you had the Mishkan there, and it was specific in reference to the contents of going out from mountain. Right? Only that. And it wasn't where you couldn't go out because you're gonna have to relieve yourself. Everybody didn't have a urinal directly inside. So you had to have a location to relieve yourself. All right. So just that alone, and also if you had an offering to bring for that particular time, everybody don't be clean on the exact same day. So just knowing that, how our law operate. If you got a law where it says you're actually going to be clean on the Shabbat, you actually got to bring this offering on this particular day, all right, then it had to be done on that particular day. So, and certain type of works that was prohibited. And another thing in reference to when they talk about about the Mikra Kodesh, the holy calling. We didn't call it holy. The Creator called it holy. And since we didn't call it holy, and He designated it as a holy calling, when somebody calls you, that's a summons. And the summons means to come out. The word koreh, now, though we translate sometimes reading, it means also to call out. And when you call out to somebody, that means that you want them to come into your attention, come into your presence. That's the difference. And it's different for us to say they heard a voice or a sound. All right? That don't necessarily mean somebody got to come to your attention. But when somebody do a call, You know, and most people that have been in the military know roll call means you better be there for the roll call. You can't be back someplace else for the roll call. And that's just in the military thing or a school or any other thing that they have a roll call attendance. So they take it out of context when they say a gathering, and we translate the word convocation as gathering, and that's the English way of saying Mikra Kodesh is a holy convocation, but to convene for a holy purpose. That's why different the Hebrew term for houses of assembly, and I did a talking about that. They had different terms, a zebul, a dot, and quahal, which is an assembly. But yeah, you know, the places where people meet at, they call Beit Knesset, a house of gathering. You know, and Knesset mean, Knesset is a house where you meet and gather and collect people, and it's taken from the Greek term, but that's what they actually did. So, and one more thing I'd like to bring out before move on, make it clear. Everybody didn't do wrong in that book. Daniel knew what was right. Ananias, Azariah, Mishael, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego knew what was right. Ezekiel, I heard D.C.B was speaking on it not too long ago about Ezekiel, and say, I never ate anything unclean in my life. But where he at? He going with the captives to jail, to Babylon. People never, and you read in its own book, in that book, that they wind up not only he's sitting amongst the elders of Yehudah. What could they be discussing? If you're talking about the elders of Yehudah, what are they discussing? And talking about. And so you never had people that never forgot how it is. And we read in as late as Ezra and Nehemiah, when they built the second temple, when they built it, it reads right there in the text. It says, those cried that remember the first one. If they remember the first one, they didn't forget what day that's worship. They didn't forget the traditions that was going on. They just were prohibited from doing a lot of stuff, but they never forgot that. So, those are some of the things I use to solidify that everybody it's not going to do wrong, just like everybody is not doing right. But the thing is that you don't have enough people doing right to save everybody. But the Creator gonna always keep somebody around. That's why Elijah made that very same mistake, saying, I alone are left for the prophets yet. Other prophets was high now. And the Creator says 7,000 haven't even been the knee. That's not even on their agenda to turn against me. And you got a replacement over here, but you didn't know him before. Call him Elisha. So that's my answer for those guys that don't want to come out and assemble. And one of the tragedy is this: you turn to God when you're in trouble, but you don't want to turn to God to thank him for pulling you out of trouble. Well, I mean, that's the only question you had, man. I tried to make it easy to say, about.
I mean, Toda, definitely, you have a lot of, I don't know what's going on. There's a lot of new understanding out there. I mean, we've always had there've always been people with different understanding. We know that, like, throughout the years, but there's so many things now that are so prevalent and that people are pushing. There's some Sabbath day starting in the daytime. It's like one of the big ones that we get questions about that every week, it seems. And it seems like this concept is spreading about a day or the Shabbat day starting in the daytime. And no matter how many points you take them to, that make sense, logical, the Most High God tells us about Yom Kippur.
Well, I'm familiar with the D.C.B's teachings, and I know you'll be on point. So there's nothing really I can say different. And right. But what D.C.B or people from Shema or various other congregations say, There are no mainstream congregations. I can't say anything different. But what I will say is this, is when people start bringing up stuff like that, what they're saying is that, God, I'm going to put you on a very tight time limit leash. And if they thought of it like that, God, I ain't got that much time to spend with you. So if I got that much time to spend with you, so I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna allot you this kind of time. I don't care what kind of time you want. I'm only going to allot you this kind of time. And if they thought about it like that, how much time I'm going to allot the Creator, how much time I'm going to try to petition or thank the Creator, then if they have any real godliness still left, they'll say, I'll feel ashamed of myself. That's where I see
it. Hallelujah. Torah by Nasik.
I didn't say it from my own, so they could direct it to me, because I said it like
well, you're gonna see it. They're gonna leave their answers on the actual chat. And then another funny one was because I've been replaying when Benjamin went through, Rabbi Chief Benjamin went through the first 5 books. So I replay it. You know, he's a brother at D.C.B, but these were videos from when we were at CHOKMAH, Yisrael. So the 2 lions are up there. And somebody say, oh, you guys are playing videos with the 2 abomination lions. The Most High God told us that we should have no idols, and those are idols. And I mean, there's so many things that are out there.
And so what's so ironic, I gave a teachings on the making of the Mishkan, and I said, why it's okay to have a cherubim carved up, opposing feminine and masculine features, because a pair means opposing. So sometimes the word is Shanae and sometimes the word is Shanaim, and they both is used in the text. So Shanae means it's just 2 of the identical things. Shanaim means it's a pair, like a left and a right, opposite and opposing. And those things are used with the cherubims, and they're supposed to be, and we know they're supposed to be some kind of angelic beings. And also in the curtains is woven as such. So why is it allowed? Because their purpose is defined within it. Why did the Kushtan, that serpent that they use, that they call the Kushtan later, the cure the plague, and they said that anybody who was bitten with the fiery serpents had to look at that serpent wrapped around a pole. That's metallic. And it was told to put it up, not to get rid of it. It just got rid of it later on when they started to worship it. So when people talk about images and idols, it's only when you start to worship it, it becomes a problem. The ark was taken because we looked at God like he's in the box, and we wasn't worthy. So those type of things there, but when the minute it became back in our hand and now we wanted to do the right thing, the guy had it in his house all this time. Nothing happened to anybody. As soon as the ox stumbled and he go to grab on it, boom, he's out. He's dead. And now we got mad with God because of him. So we got to learn from the books of books, read it and learn, and all that stuff is written for our edification. So I know I don't be doing enough myself personally for the Creator. I know how much I'm short on a lot of stuff personally. How many prayers, how long to pray, how often to pray, what time consistently. I might not be consistent on the time, most of the week, but I try, especially when it gets closer to Yom Kippur, everything like that. I try to make sure my prayers is consistent time. I try to make sure it's consistent length. I try to make sure it's the same kind of spirit or better approaching it. So it's always the thing we try to get better. And when you if you was in a problem, you don't want God to say, look, I ain't got time for you right now.
I do have to ask you one last thing. You said cherubim are angelic beings, right? But isn't there a difference between what we know as angels, cherubim, and sepharim?
A
Because
different
every time we look in the Tanakh, right? And I did a lesson on this when I spoke about it when I went into Ezekiel, and it was speaking about the you know, the vision that he saw, the will within the will, right?
Yeah, the Macabre.
Right. So every time you speak about, every time the Tanakh speaks about angels or messengers, we always see that they take on the form of a man for most part. Like I don't remember any. They take the form of a man. When Jacob saw had the dream, he saw angels ascending and descending. Right. When he wrestled with an angel, it was the form of a man. When Samson's father Manoah saw the angel, it was a man. Right. Every time we look at cherubim, or it speaks about cherub or cherubim, these are winged creatures with wings. And Sepharim is something totally on another level. So wouldn't the cherubim just be an heavenly being rather than an angelic being? Because angels are messengers that every time we see them in the Tanakh, they take the form of a man.
Okay, now let's look at this here. We know the Hebrew language.
Okay.
You can have 1,000 women and one man there. And if you're addressing them all, use the masculine. That's number one. Number two, it don't give you the gender of the individual because it's in the plural. You know, except for in Genesis. In Genesis is Keruv. All right. When Yaakov when Abraham during the time, Abraham when he got down a lot, and used to run Malachim and stuff like that. They call him Malachim then. All right. With Yaakov, it's not even called a Malach. You know what I mean? It's not even called a Malach there. And then with Manoah, in his case, all right, he had the appearance of a man, right? But when you talk about the seraphims that Ezekiel talked about and the faces they had, all right, it was seen all masculine, but one of the things that when I say the face of a lion, we would think of a male lion. Bull is definitely masculine. Face of a man is definitely masculine. But amongst most birds of prey, the female is the most dominant. Amongst whether the eagle, the female eagle is bigger. So that's mostly the more dominant. And when you talk about brought you out on eagle's wings and stuff like that, we thinking about a male or you think about a female carrying the young upon the wings. So we can't get caught up about the gender factor because if Yaakov say when you see angels ascending and descending, he didn't describe whether it was male or female. So that comes to other traditional teachings, to say, well, this one is feminine, this one is masculine. All I did is brought out about when they talk about the cherubims on the Ark of the Covenant, and they faces facing one another, and use the word, one part of the book used the word Shanae for two, when they talk about building those two up there, where they face, and their wings are stretched like that. And then it goes on, and they use the word Shanaim. So to say a pair or anything, use the word Shanaim. And Yadayim is a pair of hands, but you got a left. But you say two hands, that means something different. You could have two right hands, or So that's why feet is ragline. You got a one on one side, one on the other side. Any part of your body, osnaim, stuff like that, is dualisms. It's a pair, but it's an opposition, and that's what we have in scripture, and that's the way the language works.
Okay, Torah. I appreciate it. I know I stretched you out a little bit more on this.
That's right. No, that's okay. That's not a problem. Not a problem.
I might do that from time to time.
That's okay. So, my pleasure. I hope I'll be helpful. And like I tell people, any mistakes, spend my own, and don't charge who's with that. But I mean, don't we have similar viewpoints? Don't we have similar viewpoints on some issues?
Hallelujah. Torah about Nasik. May the Most High God bless you.
All of us, thank you.
And early Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Shabbat